Hi, I want to walk you through how to create citations for your Golding Trial Witness Statement. So we're talking today about in-text citations and works cited and Google citations, oh my. So first, what does it mean to cite something and why do we do it? So citing is giving the source of your information, and we do that for a bunch of reasons. One is so that we give credit to content creators. It's never ethical to take credit for information or ideas that are not your own, and we give credit to the people who have done the research or the writing that we draw on to create our own content. So that's ethics. Second, though, when you're doing research, it helps you cover your own back, especially if information is not right. Especially in this age of AI, it's important to be able to show where you got your information and why you thought it was trustworthy. And if there happens to be a mistake, then it's kind of the source's fault and less yours because you've done your due diligence. So citing your source lets you cover your own back. And last, it allows others to replicate your research, to seek context to fact check us. If you make a claim based on facts and somebody doesn't agree with your claim, if they have the site, can go back and look at it themselves and disprove you or argue with you or check it themselves. And so your research becomes more transparent as well as more credible when you cite your sources. For all of those reasons, we are requiring you to cite your sources in your witness statement or you will be impeached at the trial, which means that you will have your direct and then the cross-examining attorney will stand up and say, this person has no work cited, and so their testimony must be stricken from the record, and you won't get to do a cross-examination. Please don't let that happen to you. Let me show you how. Okay, so first, what do you need to cite and where? You need to cite any ideas that are not yours. Anything that wasn't originally in your own head that's an idea or a fact, you need to say where it came from. There's no shame in saying that you took an idea from somebody else, but you have to give them credit. So if there's an idea that is not yours, was not in your head, you've got to cite it. In addition, if you use any words that are not yours, that you pull from a website or from some research source, you have to set off those words with quotation marks and a citation. So it doesn't matter whether you take a direct quote or not, you still have to cite it, but the quotation marks show that the words are also not your own. In any case, the citation comes right after the material that you have drawn from your source, not after your analysis. So at the end of the sentence that has information that you have researched, you put a citation right there. Citations actually have two parts that work together. There's a works cited section that has lots of details, and there are in-text citations that tell which source every fact came from. Let's start with the works cited page. The works cited section always comes at the end of your paper, down here. In that section, you list all your sources in alphabetical order. You give detailed information about each source and a link or a way that another person can find them to fact check you. It used to be so complicated to put this together, and now you can create it right in Google Docs, which is amazing. Let me show you how to create your works cited section. I'm going to open up my witness statement. I'm also opening up my research document, and I'm going to show you how to use the Google Docs citation tool to create a works cited source. Okay, here we go. All right, so in my witness packet, I used several different sources to research my witness, who is Adrian Black, one of my very favorite Golding Trial witnesses. So I've used several sources to research my character, Adrian Black, and I need now to enter all of those sources into my works cited section. Here's my witness statement where I will be entering those, and we're using on Google Docs a tool called Citations. If you click on the Tools menu and go down to Citations, it takes you to that tool. If you look over here on the side of my screen, I can't zoom in more than that, you'll see I've already added a few of my sources that I've used to research my piece. I'm going to add another one. So on my witness statement, or on my witness packet, I had been keeping track of all my different sources so I can go back to them. And the fact that I need to cite actually comes from this one. So I'm going to copy this and go back to my witness statement. And so now again, I'm in Tools, Citations, and I'm going to add a new citation source. My citation source is a website. I accessed it by a website. And then I'm going to paste the URL right here and say search. Sometimes it will format a citation for me, which is great. Sometimes it doesn't, and then you got to do the work for yourself. Okay, so here it's asking me to find some information. So I'm going to find anything I can, leave anything I can't find blank. First, it's asking me for the author. I'm going to go over here. Here's my source. Here's my author. right there. I'm not sure why I couldn't find it, but that was easy. Olivia Empson. Here I go. My author's name is Olivia. Last name is Empson. Now it wants to know the title of my source. Here's the title right here. Copy. Title. The website title isn't the page, the article that I'm reading, it's the main website that this was published on. If you look here, you can see my website that I'm on is theguardian.com. The publisher is sometimes the same as the website title, but sometimes it's different. Usually it's at the top or the bottom. I see Support the Guardian, looks like it's a news website. Down here, Support the Guardian, looks like the Guardian News and Media Limited. That must be the publisher. I'm going to capture that down here at the bottom. Guardian News and Media Limited. Okay, now it asks me for the URL. That part's easy. Ask for the day and the month that it was published. That's usually going to be at the top or the bottom. Here's my article. Here's the day that it was published, 7th of June, 2024. So that was June 2024. The day was the 7th. Then it asked for the day that I accessed it. Today I'm looking at that on the 12th of November, 2025. And then a short title if I have one. Again, any information I can't find, I'm just going to leave blank. When I'm done, I'm going to click Add Citation Source. And it has now created for me this Works Cited entry. Here are the other ones that I have already used to create this piece. So I've made a Works Cited entry. I would keep repeating that process with every source that I used to research my character. Okay, so we've created that Works Cited section. Once you fill in as many sources as you can and you know that you're not going to add any more sources, you're going to click the blue Create Works Cited button and it will create the Works Cited for you. Let me show you what that looks like. So now I'm on my witness statement. I'm going to go down here into the Works Cited section, put my cursor. I'm going to say Insert Works Cited. Bam, there it is. They are in alphabetical order. They are perfectly formatted. They have all the information I need, and that's my Works Cited section. Amazing. Okay, so that's Google Citations for the Works Cited. But keep in mind that that's only half of the work of citation. There's the Works Cited that we just created, and then there's also in-text citations, and those tell which source every fact came from. Let me show you where those are. In-text citations show up in body paragraphs right after any information that didn't come from your own brain. So those are showing up in the top of your witness statement. There's usually a short word or phrase in parentheses, and if it's from a book, a page number. And these connect to a source in the Works Cited section to give more information about where this fact did come from. Here's the logic of in-text citations. They connect to a Works Cited entry. So let's look at a sample Works Cited section about Stalin. Here's the first citation. It says Hingley, Ronald Francis. It's a title. It's from Encyclopedia Britannica. A fact that I pulled from this source would be cited with this. Hingley. Look at the logic of where that came from. It is the very first word in the full citation. Okay, let's look at the next one, that History.com staff, Joseph Stalin from A&E. We would cite that as History.com staff. Notice it comes right from the front of the full citation in the Works Cited section. Why would this one not be Joseph Stalin? Because if it was Joseph Stalin, I would go down the Works Cited list looking for JJJJ, and I would actually think this fact came from that BBC site, which is the third one down. So we use what's at the beginning of the Works Cited citation for the parenthetical. This next one, there is no author given. Again, I'm just using what is at the front of the Works Cited citation. So it's that whole long yellow title. This last one, very straightforward. It's somebody's last name, Simkin, which connects to the very front of the Works Cited citation. So I want you to notice that there's a logic. What is in this parentheses matches what is at the beginning of the Works Cited citation. They work together that way to show where the information came from. Luckily, in Google Citations, it creates it for you. It's so easy, and I'll show you how that works in a second. Here's what you want to hold in mind. On your witness statement, you need to add a parenthetical citation to each researched fact. There should be at least one per paragraph, but likely much more. So for each fact that you didn't already know in your brain, you need to give the source for that information in a parentheses at the end of that information. And the source also must be listed in full for your works cited. Here's an example for Batman. As a child, I witnessed the murder of my own parents in a botched robbery by Joe Chill. Finger, that's one citation. A trauma that would haunt me into adulthood. Rorschach is another citation. Let me show you how that works on Google Citations. Okay, so I'm back in my witness statement. Here's the section that I have written about Adrian Black. So Adrian Black grew up under the guidance of adult mentors who were in the KKK. I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. My father was Don Black, and he ran a radio show called Stormfront that broadcast white supremacist news. When I was 10, we began to co-host the Don and Derek Black show together, and I stated on air that I would lead the next generation of white supremacy. I need to cite where I got these facts. If I don't remember, I can always go back and look at my sources. Luckily, I remember where this is. This is from this website on The Guardian. And here is the fact that I found about being 10 and saying to lead the white supremacist movement for the younger generation. Okay, so here I need to cite this source. This is my Guardian source. Now I'm back on my document. And so I'm going to go to that source, the Guardian source. That was this one. This is Olivia Empson. I'm putting the cursor at the end of my fact. I'm going to hover over here and click this blue Insert in-text citation button. And it added the parenthetical for me, perfectly formatted. It's Empson. I didn't even have to know that because Google Docs did it for me, which is amazing. So now you know. You need to make sure that you have cited all of the different sources that you use to gather your information at the end of your witness statement in a works cited section in alphabetical order. Google Documents will do it for you as long as you use that citation tool. You need to make sure that every fact or quote you researched is followed by a parenthetical citation that matches something that is in your works cited section. Again, Google Docs will create the parenthetical citation for you, but it's your job to remember to insert them and to use the correct source for the information you've used. And then anytime you use a direct quote, words that are not your own, you have to make sure to put them in quotation marks to show that you've taken those words from somewhere else. Remember that if you have a missing works cited or missing citations, you may be impeached for lack of credibility during the trial, and your testimony will be stricken from the record. In addition, you're going to show us that you can do this key academic skill by turning in a citation benchmark. The citation benchmark is submitting your witness statement document to English. You're also turning it in to Ms. DS for feedback, but you're turning it into English assignment number 23 with all of the citations correct. The parentheticals need to be correctly placed and formatted. The works cited needs to be complete and correctly formatted, and all of the works cited entries used in the body need to be listed in the works cited section. You'll be able to revise and resubmit if you've made any mistakes through Friday, December 12th. Go out and get those citations.